choosing the right title company for your real estate wholesaling business is so important. What if you spend a bunch of money on marketing and you've got yourself a deal and you spend so much time, energy, and effort to find yourself a buyer that's going to take over your contract, and now you're ready to make $25,000 or $30,000 in a deal, and at the very end, right when you think you've got it all put together and you're going to make that big assignment fee, the whole entire deal falls apart through none of your own fault or anybody else's, except that now the title company really screwed everything up, and now you've got a big mess on your hands and you're not going to be able to make your deal happen. And how do I know this? Because it's happened to me, and I don't want that to happen to you. When you choose the right title company, not only can you rest assured that there is nothing that's going to get screwed up by someone else other than you in the transaction, but you can also have someone that's on your team that can go above and beyond the call of duty. They can do so many other things, and it's just going to be such an amazing part of your team that is going to help you succeed even more. That's why it's important. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step the criteria and the process you follow to make sure that this is not a stumbling block for you. As always, if you find this material helpful, I want you to do two things. Number one, give me a like. Make sure you comment and let me know, yes, I found this helpful, or maybe you need a clarification on something I mentioned in this video. Go ahead and do that. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because that way you can be notified of my next video and, again, increase your real estate knowledge. So let's go ahead and get started with the video. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to choose the best title company for your wholesale real estate transaction and business. And this is going to be my step-by-step tutorial on how to do this. I'm using an app called Dynalist.io. It's my favorite app for outlining and for fleshing things out. I have no affiliation with the company other than the fact that I can't live without this particular tool. So let's go through this step by step. Now, a couple of basics here for those of you that are here. When I am talking about this, I am talking about doing a wholesale real estate transaction. Wholesaling real estate is, in case you're brand new to the channel, it's the art of finding a motivated seller, a property owner that is willing to sell their property at a discount. We are then going to place that property under contract, and then we're going to find a cash buyer that's going to take over our agreement, that we're going to sell our contract to that cash buyer, and we're going to end up making a fee for doing that. And that fee could range from anywhere from a couple $1,000 to as much as, the most I've ever made on a deal was $94,000. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to make $94,000 on a deal, but I'm telling you that to illustrate the fact that, the potential is limitless. And this is the absolutely best way for anyone to get started in real estate, because it teaches you the most important and the fundamental part of being a successful real estate investor, which is finding deals. Now, part of the process, once you do have a deal that you can make some money off, is choosing the right title company. So throughout this entire process of becoming a successful real estate wholesaler, we always have to think about the fact that it's never one thing. It's always a combination of things that come together to help create success in your real estate business. And the title company and choosing the right closing agent is one of those things. Now, the title company, the reason why we need a title company is because the title company is a third party that's going to facilitate a closing with both the buyer and the seller. Now, they're going to do a variety of different things. They're going to do the lien searches on the property to make sure that there's no outstanding liens on the property. They're going to go ahead and do a title search to make sure that, hey, the title is proper, and that there's nothing that's going to cloud the title, meaning that when a seller sells a property, the buyer needs to be able to take possession and title and ownership of that property without having them to be fearful that, hey, somebody else owns that property, or maybe somebody else has a lien against the property, etc. And want to make sure, like, for example, if I'm buying a property from you and now I have clear title, but you have a mortgage on the property, then the title company will then do the research and know that, hey, there is a mortgage on that property that then has to be paid off before, Cris Chico now takes possession of that property as the legal owner. There's collection of taxes to make sure that whatever outstanding taxes are due are collected at the time of closing and they're paid. They record the transaction at the Public Records Department. So they do a lot of things to make sure that a transaction happens. And also they fund. They're the ones that send us the money. So we got to make sure that we choose the right title company. Now, this could be an escrow. Every state has a different way of doing this. So it could be called an escrow company. Some states use a title company. I'm in Florida. So we have title companies, and the title companies are run by attorneys. So you need to be an attorney. In some states, you don't have title companies. You have an attorney, like for example, New York. So you have to know the procedure in your particular state, and that depends on your state. Now, who pays all of these closing costs that are associated with getting this transaction done? Well, in a typical transaction, there are closing costs for both the buyer and the seller. Each of them will pay their own, depending on the county. Some of them are customary for the seller to pay. Some of them are customary for the buyer to pay. Also, who pays could be negotiated on the contract. So if we are doing a deal with a seller, and we're saying to the seller, look, I'm going to pay you all cash and I'm going to pay for all of your closing costs in the transaction. Then at that point, we have negotiated, per contract that a lot of these closing costs that would normally be charged to the seller are now going to be charged to the buyer, to us, and or to the buyer that's going to take over our contract. So, all of these are negotiated, and, in terms of who pays on the agreement, who doesn't pay on the agreement. Now, what if you have the wrong title company? Well, you could end up, having delays, having issues with your closing. They can end up screwing up the deal because they say the wrong thing to the buyer or to the seller. And not that we're trying to, misinform anyone, but, we want to make sure that everything is done appropriately. And if it's not done appropriately, then that's a problem. And the problem is really because we're doing transactions that are not your typical real estate agent transactions, which is what most title companies are used to doing. And so we want to make sure that we have the right title company that's used to doing transactions in the way we need them done so that we can make sure that we don't have any issues. And that's why we have to make sure that we choose the right title company. So now let's go into step number 2. By the way, tell me if you like these outlines. I'm doing them like this because it helps me formulate in my mind and put things in order, and makes it easier for me so I don't ramble on unnecessarily. And I could do these on a PowerPoint slide. However, the PowerPoint would take longer. Here, I can flesh things out really quickly and then record a video for you. So let me know if you find this tool helpful and when I'm working through these items in order to help you understand each and every item. So how do we identify a title company that we're going to use? So a couple things you can do. You can search on Google for a local real estate investment club in your area. I'm going to click on this link. It'll take me to my browser window here. And you can see that I have done a search for Broward County Real Estate Club. And I'm in Broward County. So if I am doing a transaction, I want to select a title company that is in the county that I'm already going to be doing, that the property is located. So for example, in this scenario, I then will go to the Broward Real Estate Association. You can tell there's a couple here. There's the Broward Real Estate. There is the Miami-Dade RIA organization. So let's say if I click on here, it's going to take me to that website, and I'm going to do a couple things. Number one is I'm going to look to see if there's any vendors here that are listed on their website. If not, then I can go ahead and call them up and say, hey, look, I'm looking for a title company that I can use in the area for my deals. Do you have one that you recommend? You have a vendor. Like here, for example, this is great. So they have the corporate members. So I can look to see if they have a title company. I can click on view or all corporate members here. And I can see if they have a title company, like Firm Title Corporation. So that's a company that is that is investor friendly because they're advertising in the local real estate investment club. And now I'm going to give them a call, see where they're at, talk to them. And that's an easy way to get your title company. Another one is to just search on Facebook groups. So I pulled up a search here for Facebook. I can select Broward Real Estate Investors, and I see all these groups that are showing up here. I can become a member of that group, and then I can ask, hey, do you have a title company you recommend for doing wholesale transactions? You can talk to other wholesalers and ask them. Now, when you do get a title company, on the phone, I would just ask him, hey, are you familiar with assignments? Because I'm a real estate wholesaler and I'm doing assignments of contract. Are you okay with doing double closings? Now, typically with double closings, you need transactional funding. It used to be where you can kind of do, you can use the buyer funds in order to fund your double closing, but a lot of that is frowned upon now. So when you talk about double closings, we're talking about using transactional funding. In the beginning, as a beginner, you want to try to avoid that. It's just overly complicated, but you do want to ask him that. And then ask him if any additional requirements that they have for investor deals that are different from a regular transaction, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But if you're getting someone from the local RIA, they're used to doing these deals, and so you're not going to have a problem with them. So that's step number one, is identification of the right title company. Step number two is then we're going to put a property on the contract. And I realize that this is how to choose the best title company. However, though, I need to put the selection process in the context of where it falls in the transaction and how you get them involved, because otherwise then I'm giving you incomplete information. I want to make sure that I do that. So now let's talk about step number two. Now we go out into the marketplace. We find a motivated seller that's willing to sell us their property at a discount. And so we're going to go ahead and then we are going to negotiate that property with the owner, and we're going to go ahead and put a contract on the property. Now, the next step we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and we're going to specify on the agreement that we have with the property owner. We are going to specify on the agreement that we are going to use our own title company. We must make sure that we are in control of this particular transaction. And the way we do that is we control the title agent. And we're going to go ahead and specify in the agreement. If I don't have the title agent just yet, maybe it's a market that you're beginning and so you don't really know who the title agent is, just put on the contract buyer to select escrow and title and closing agents, right? So we're going to put on there buyer to select escrow and closing agent. Now, once we have a contract in hand, we can submit the contract to the title company so that they can begin title. However, we are not going to do that just yet. So the question becomes why is it that then once we know the title company and once we have a property on the contract, which now we must do title work, we must get the title work done. Why is it that we're not submitting the property to and the contract to the title company just yet? Well, the reason for that is the fact that if we submit the deal to the title company, they're going to start to run title and lien searches immediately. And if you end up not closing on a deal, maybe you put the property in the contract and it wasn't the best deal, and for whatever reason you don't end up closing on the property, you're going to be on the hook for the fees that they are going to incur for running these title searches and the lien searches, etc. And so then that's the reason why. So the only time that we go ahead and submit the deal is if, number one, is we are 100% sure that this is the deal. This is a absolute deal. We're getting a great price. We know that we can find a buyer. And in the beginning, you may not know that as a beginner. So this is more of if I'm an experienced person, and I pick up a deal that I know is worth $140,000, but I pick it up for $50,000 or $40,000. I know it's a deal. I know I'm going to find a buyer. So that is a non-issue. So I'm going to go ahead and run title ASAP because I don't want to delay the closing unnecessarily. Because also I didn't write it down here, but title work, depending on the municipality, depending on where you're located, title work can take anywhere. Usually they can run title pretty quick. So title, they can submit the title to be done, and that could come back in a couple days, 2 or 3 days. They can put a rush on it. But the thing that sometimes takes long are the lien searches. So a title company will have to run a lien search, and that means that they're going to query the particular municipality that property belongs to. Like, for example, I live in the city of Plantation, so the title company would have to send a notice and a request to the city of Plantation asking them, hey, are there any water liens? Are there any anything against the property, etc.? And so those can take time. Those usually are the things that hold up the closing more than anything else. And now the other scenario where you are going to go ahead and order title work immediately is if you're going to close on the property. If you're experienced and you say, look, I got this deal, I'm going to try to sign it, but if I don't assign it or if I don't get a good price for this deal, then I'm going to go ahead and just simply close on it, put on the MLS, and then be able to sell it after the fact. Then fine, run title. But other than that, then I would delay running title until you have a buyer. Now, Now, at this point, we've covered step number one. Let me close this. Step number one, step number two. By the way, please make sure that you, as I'm writing this, as I'm doing this video for you, make a comment. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to go back to them. I usually go back to the comments within the first 24 to 48 hours to answer any lingering questions. And let me know, give me a like and let me know that you like this content and you appreciate the format of this content and you find it useful and helpful for me to go through these items in this way, in a very detailed format, methodically, so that you can get the answers you need. Now, the next step is we're going to go out and find a buyer. Now, our assignment of contract with the buyer is going to specify the closing and the title agent. We're always going to use our title company, our own title company that we have vetted in order to close on the property and not whoever the buyer wants to use. If we're starting out brand new and we don't have a title company yet, then we can go with the buyer's, but I would also call the buyer's title agent and ask him the questions, that I have here laid out in step number one, right here, questions to ask, are they familiar with assignments? So do double closings? What if additional requirements they may have? Now, once you are experienced and you've done deals, then the chances of you going with the buyer's title agent is going to dramatically decrease. I can tell you this, that every single time I fudge on this and I go with the buyer's title agent, I always end up just having all sorts of issues because I know my title agent, they're used to working with the way I like to work. Maybe they're willing to go above and beyond the call of duty to get things done. And I don't know who I'm dealing with on the other side. However, let's say that I have a property that I have on the contract and I have nobody interested. I've got one buyer and one buyer only. This is my only chance. And the buyer says, look, if we don't use my title company, we are not buying this property. Then you're stuck. You gotta play with what you got. But if you're in a position of power where you have a good deal and you've got a lot of activity and you know you can get it sold, then at that point, don't fudge on that. Stay with your title company. Now at this point, right, we've identified the title company. We put the property in the contract. We have found the buyer. And now finally, we are going to have be able to start, we're going to start title. Now, once we have both a contract with the buyer, with the seller and the assignment of contract fully executed, we're going to start the title. And we're going to go ahead and give the title company information for all the parties. We're going to give them the information for the buyer, the seller, and any hard money or any private lenders that are associated with that. When it comes to deposits, make sure that you have deposited whatever the escrow requirement is that you have with the initial contract that you have with the seller. If you put, example of deposits, could be, let me put this up here, might be better. Example of deposits, actually, no, I'll move this back down here. Because this plays with these other two. So make sure that you have the deposit in place for the seller agreement, and then make sure that the buyer deposits their money. And typically on the assignment of contract, I say that the buyer has to deposit the money within 24 hours, 48 hours at the most, but that's it. In order for them to know that they have a deal, because I put it on the assignment. If you don't make that deposit within this specified time, I'm going to go ahead and this assignment is null and void. Now, example deposit. So let's say that I have on my initial agreement with the seller, I put up $500 deposit with the seller purchase contract, and then the assignment of contract, I have it as $3,500. So $500 of that assignment of contract here is going to go toward the seller agreement, and $3,000 toward the assignment. So I have a clause in my assignment that says that, hey, this, that you're going to put up $3,500. $500 is toward my initial agreement with the seller, and then the $3,000 is toward my assignment. That means that if the buyer ends up canceling or not closing on the deal, and for whatever reason we end up defaulting on the agreement with the seller because of it, then the seller gets a $500, I get the $3,000, which the buyer had put up a total of $3,500 on the deal. And then I will then give the instructions on the title company. Just these are some quick tips. Let me see. These are extra. I forgot to take them off, but I'm going to do that on the fly here on the video because I don't need them anymore. These are just my little memory triggers to make sure that and now how embarrassing that I didn't do this appropriately. Here, with you. Instruct the title company to come to you with any issues on the transaction. Now, and then at that point, then we're going to go ahead and work the deal in order to get to closing. Going again, when would you change this order here? Step 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you have a situation that with the seller that gives you the impression that you're going to have some issues with title work, then at that point, then you may want to start with starting the title first, right? Knowing that, hey, depending on your relationship with the title company, they're going to ask for the fees up front, or they may charge you for that. Or if you do a lot of deals with them, they might just every once in a while do this for you because they got enough volume coming from you. And you're just going to be upfront with the title company. Look, I need to run a title report because the seller told me that his ex-mother-in-law had signed a deed and he doesn't know what's going on with it. So I just need to make sure that there's no issues. If you could run title for this, and I'll be more than happy to pay for the title work regardless if the property closes or not. And also I would specify on here, no lien search, right? So you're going to ask them to run title. However, you're going to tell them that you don't want them to run a lien search, because a lien search is the thing that takes the longest. And again, some areas don't require lien search, but here in Florida, we got to do lien searches. That's going to require the longest. That's going to be, they're going to charge like $400 for that. So, here you're going to get away with just paying a much smaller fee, and it'll just give you the information that much faster. And that is it for how to find and how to choose the best title company for your wholesaling real estate business. There you have it. That is my step-by-step process for making sure that the title company is not going to be the thing that stops you from making money in real estate. I've laid everything out for you. I hope you find this video helpful. Make sure you check out one of the videos that pops up here that will give you even more training, and make sure that you have subscribed to the channel so that way I can continue to help you in your real estate wholesaling business.